Speaking for the entire county, serving Dillon, Latta, and Lakeview by covering our local news and upcoming events. Please join us now for Chamber Moments.
Hello, welcome to Chamber Moments. I'm Johnny Lures. Today I have as my guest Sonny McCray, and Sonny has worn many, many hats in this county, from councilman to E911, and today he's here to talk with us about an event that we've had for many years in our county, but due to certain situations we're going to have to, I don't want to say cancel it, but let's talk about our Martin Luther King Day.
Thank you there, Johnny. Good to be here. As she said, I do wear many hats, but I do not do it alone. I have other folks, citizens, ministers, people that wear other hats like I myself do. We sit down and we talk about these things. And today, it's sad that we have to postpone it because of the situation that's going on now with the citizen, with our nation. And we will be postponing it this year because of that. We did have a real nice program set up. We had our first meeting last year to start out preparing for this event, and we were going to have a nice parade. We had already had it scheduled to begin at Martin Luther King Boulevard down by the old J.B. Martin, and marched right on down to Manning Baptist, which was located down on 6th Avenue. And since then, our epidemic that came along to interrupt us at this time, but we are not canceling it out. It's just been postponed to next year.
Yes, and as in the past too, we would also have vehicles for some of our elderly people, or if the weather was bad, that they could be kind of protected and they could participate. And we also involved a lot of youth into it. I mean, it was a day of service, and that's the one thing that Dr. King always emphasized, a day of service.
Exactly, and we were just going to involve folks from all over the county. I was so happy about it because we were anticipating on a lot of college bands, high school bands, churches with their banners, T-shirts, kids, of course, and we were going to have rides for the senior citizens if they was able. If you can recommend from last year, we had a young lady, Miss Johnson, who was 97 years old, who marched with us from the park. And I thought that was really, really wonderful because she almost outwalked me. And that's the kind of things. And I know that Dr. Martin Luther King, he was a minister, a Baptist minister at that. And he was one of the motivators, teachers. He was active in the movement of during the civil rights leadership back during that time for almost 13 years plus. So, I think that we're not really forgetting about him. I'm hoping that my ministers on this Sunday will say a few words to the congregation concerning this matter and this particular date, so we won't forget it. And
we'll continue to plan this year, and next year, 2022, I believe,
right,
will be even bigger and better than what we planned for 2021.
That's correct.
Now, you will be sending out some information later on about having some meetings and everything like this.
I will.
And get everybody involved. We want to keep our public informed of what's going on.
Exactly. We'll probably be sending some information out probably in the spring of the year, and so we can start preparing and preparing for this event in 2022, I guess. So with that said, we're going to continue what our plan was, and we're hoping that the plans that we have for this year, we're going to put it all together, and hopefully that we can help this epidemic be gone, and we can go back to our lives as usual, like a normal day. But this stuff happens.
Yes. And we have to, as you and I had spoken earlier, we have to be very conscious of our community and make sure we keep everyone as safe as possible.
Exactly.
Because of the COVID, we're not able to do it. Our numbers are just too high right now.
Exactly. And we want to have that responsibility.
Right, exactly,
So.
exactly. Well, thank you very much, and we'll be talking before 2022, okay?
Thank you. Okay.
I'm Johnny Lures for Chamber Moments. Hello, welcome to Chamber Moments. I'm Johnny Lures. Today I have as my guest Donna Sellers, and Donna is here to talk to us about COVID testing and some of our numbers, I believe, but basically about the COVID testing
Yes.
that we are offering in Dillon County.
Yes, Dillon Family Medicine is offering a site at First Baptist Church, which of course is 400 North 4th Avenue. We're there Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and then Saturday, 10 to 2, to provide COVID testing. We do the molecular test, so of course that's the gold standard. Hopefully results back in less than 2 days. Now if somebody's unable to give us a saliva sample, we do ship that to LabCorp, and that takes a little bit longer.
Okay.
So.
I've noticed that the lines are long. Let's talk a little bit about that. You know, people, we don't want to become frustrated and
Right.
drive off, but are they testing too early? Or, you know, let's kind of think about that.
I think actually what it is we finally have been able to reach enough people to understand the importance of testing. Previously, we had been really fighting to get folks to come in to understand why it's important to be tested, that sinus infection you have really may not be a sinus infection, and you want to rule out COVID to start with. So I think the volume we're seeing is a reflection of the education that's been out there, not only from us, but from DHEC and CDC and other sources. So that would, lead to the longer lines. The good thing is it is moving, but when you go and you think about in a day's time, we're testing, a couple hundred people, it's going to take, the process takes time. So we do ask for patience, and, certainly don't drive off. If you do, you may want to think to come back a time later in the day. We do see that our numbers tend to be longer. The line's longer, closer to that 10 o'clock hour, and then maybe about 3 it picks up again. But certainly if you have the leisure to check the length of the line and come back, do. If not, just bear with us.
Now, how many people in the car can be tested at one time?
We actually have had as many as 5 or 6. We just ask if there's 3 across, like for instance there's 3 children in the back, when it comes time for testing, the child, they may switch seats. We do ask that you have them, near a window, because we do a telehealth visit with everybody that comes through. And part of that is the education for the nurse practitioner and the physician to be able to talk to the person, ask them why they're getting tested, to make sure we're not testing too soon, and to assess symptoms and that sort of thing, and make sure it's an appropriate timing for the test.
Okay. The age range that you're seeing the most of, and what age would you like to see the most
Well,
of?
actually, I will tell you, and we've seen it at first, it was more demographic specific, but it's across the age span now. And I will tell you, as far as results, I call folks that are, a parent of a 2-year-old, and I call folks that are 80-some. So there doesn't seem to be any magic number now with spikes. Obviously, anybody is susceptible, and everybody should be tested.
When you said they're doing a teleconference, let's talk a little bit about that.
Each person that comes through, we do have a telehealth with, like I said, a physician or a nurse practitioner, depending on who we have on that day. And the purpose of that is to assess symptoms, certainly if they're to the point where they might need to seek further medical care at that point prior to waiting on a result. But certainly also to make sure the timing of the test is appropriate. If you were exposed yesterday, your first inclination is, I've got to go get tested, when in reality you need to wait a minimum of 4 to 5 days before you get tested, so you don't get a false negative, have that false sense of security, and are back out and about, I'm negative, when you tested too early.
Okay. Is there anything you want to bring out? Because I know we've talked a lot of different things,
Right.
but is there something that you want to hit some points on today?
Well, just today I wanted to, vaccination. There's a lot of misinformation out there
Yes.
about the vaccination. It's certainly something we recommend. There is a tier to it. Right now we're working through, healthcare providers and first responders, those sorts of things. But when your time comes and the vaccination will be available to you, don't hesitate. You may say, well, I'm, 45, 35, and I'm healthy and I'm good. Well, you may be. If you get COVID, you would probably fare well with it. But think about the people you love. Vaccination, of course, is a personal decision, and you're doing it to protect yourself, but we also want you to be vaccinated to protect the community. Every person that gets vaccinated, that's decreasing the chance of transmission to somebody who would not fare as well with the virus.
Now, would we have to schedule an appointment for a vaccination, or are we or how do we go about doing that, or is it still in the working?
It's still in the works. What I would do is, watch your social media, watch the news, watch the newspapers, however you get your information. When the time frame opens up for you, and that will be, through DHEC, we'll get that information out. Local agencies will get that out. Call and you can schedule an appointment. I think there are places now that are already starting to schedule some for, I think, the 70+ range. So the key is just keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on out there, whatever avenue you normally get that information, and then respond.
Would I call my doctor's office?
You certainly could call your doctor's office to ask. I know, there may be, certainly be patient with them getting back to you because there's a large call volume. But when you're in to see your physician, just for a routine checkup, bring it up if they don't. Say, hey, what about that COVID vaccine? When can I get it? How do I get it? Those sorts of things.
Okay. How long will y'all be at First Baptist Church?
We will be at First Baptist Testing as long as there is a need. And certainly we don't know when this will end. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but we're going to be there to serve as long as we need to. So as long as there's a need for mass testing, we'll be there.
Okay. Do you see the hours increasing any or decreasing?
Well, we adjusted the hours because of the time change, of course.
It does get dark.
It gets dark early, so that's why we adjusted from the 7 p.m. up to the 4. So should we still be there when the time changes again, I'm sure we'll readjust those to extend them later in the day.
Okay. Is there a number that they need to call for, for you for some information beforehand?
Sure. What I can say is you do not need an appointment. You just show up. There's no barriers to the test. But if you have questions, there is a number for the site, 843-845-6304. That's the phone directly on site. They can answer your questions. And if you've been through and have questions about accessing your results, they can answer those as well.
Now, I know that some people have been tested more than once. Do you recommend that, or
the latest I've seen from DHEC, and forgive me if I'm not as up to date as I should be, is that they recommend at least monthly testing for folks that are out and about, whether you have symptoms or not. And we still see a large proportion of the people that are coming that are asymptomatic, but they're positive. So obviously you don't have to have symptoms to be tested. If you're out and about around people, even with a mask, certainly it's a good thing to think about testing from time to time. Honestly, if you're a contact, you need to be tested, of course, in the appropriate time frame. Like I said, and we address that in the telehealth. And if you have symptoms, even the slightest of symptoms that you have this, think, is this COVID or is this sinus? It's easier because your doctor may want you to be tested before you come into the office. So at least you're getting that step out of the way.
Let's talk a little bit about the symptoms, because there's been a great deal about this is the flu or something like that. Let's go over what possibly could be.
Well, certainly we assess for fever, cough, shortness of breath, diarrhea, loss of taste or smell. Those are the ones that tend to lean more toward that. It could even be a headache that's new or different, increased fatigue. It's a number of symptoms, and sometimes we have this little odd symptoms, but if you have any doubt, any question, the responsible thing is to get tested to know if it's COVID or not. And again, like I said, I would wager, at one point they said they estimated 40% asymptomatic. It's at least that much or more, just anecdotally as the person that calls the positives. My first question is, are you having symptoms? And then that leads into why you still, even if you're not having symptoms, need to quarantine. Because you have the virus, you could potentially spread it.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit on quarantine, what that means for folks?
What we ask is when you have a positive, well, first let's start here. If you have been a contact to somebody or having symptoms, when you get tested, plan to at least quarantine till you get your results. That's been a little bit of a struggle that we've had folks come, they know they have symptoms or they know they've been in contact with somebody a week ago, they get tested and they go back to work. If you're planning to get tested, we do provide a note for that day and a couple of days after waiting for your results. So if you're symptomatic or have had contact when you get tested, wait for your results. Once you have your results and you're negative, you follow the instructions that you're given. But if you're positive, we ask for a 10-day quarantine from your date of test, and we're symptomatic. So if you were tested today, We're going to ask you to 10 days, and then you're free to go back out if you're asymptomatic, meaning no fever, no diarrhea, that sort of thing. If you remain symptomatic, we do ask that you are symptom-free for 24 hours before you return. So 10 days and or 24 hours symptom-free, whichever is longer.
Okay. And when you're caring for someone, are there any special precautions you need to take?
The key is hand washing, hand washing, hand washing. Of course, the masks are super helpful when you're out and about. And if there's somebody in your house that's positive and you're not, everybody needs to be wearing a mask still at the home. But wiping down areas and hand washing is, going to limit that virus spread.
Okay. You want to give that number again?
Sure.
Okay.
The site testing number is 843-845-6304.
Okay, thank you.
If you don't get an answer, leave a message. They'll call you back.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Donna.
you.
I'm Johnny Lures with Chamber Moments. Hello, welcome to Chamber Moments. I'm Johnny Lures. Today I have as my guest Robin Thompson, and Robin is here to talk about the Dillon County Theater. Hello.
Hi, Johnny. How are you?
I'm fine and welcome. Glad to have you. Let's talk a little bit about the theater. I know we kind of had to close our season down in the midst last year, so let's kind of talk about our plans.
Well, the Dillon County Theater is still here, and we still covet your support, and with an abundance of caution. We had a great event last January. We had that evening out at the Twin Lakes Country Club when Nick Townsend sang, and we were so excited about going into, and then when the pandemic hit, it put everything in with a abundance of caution. None of us wanted to take any risks. We more or less had to shut the theater down, and we were lucky enough to have it cleaned and done. We have our newly decorated new carpet and everything ready to go, and really haven't been able to use it or been able to rent it.
Right.
But we were hoping first of the year that things would have been, and right now we're kind of still in a holding pattern. We're hoping to send a letter out to our patrons and our sponsors and let them know that we are here and that we are definitely planning as soon as the situation will allow to start back. We're hoping maybe to do another kind of special thing like we did at the country club to get people together, and then go back to some performances in the, we weren't able to do our veterans program this year, and we had some good things on the books, and hopefully we're going to be able to bring them in later in 2021. So we're hoping to send a letter out within the next month or so, and any and all support would be greatly appreciated. All of the arts organizations are pretty much exactly where we are right now, but we do have expenses. We have buildings, and we're trying to keep our heads above water, and there has been some help, thank goodness, through grants and programs, but nothing takes the place of the support of your community. So hopefully within the next, I'm hoping maybe by summer or late spring, we can maybe offer something that would put us back on the map.
And we may have to offer something just a little non-traditional.
Right.
And we know our patrons and our sponsors will work with us.
Right.
And they understand the situation because they want to attend, they want to support, but they also understand that our community's, good health is the first thing we're thinking
priority.
about. Yeah, our first priority. So we want to do that. But we wanted to let them know that we're still working.
Right. We are, and we want to. Dillon has always supported the Dillon County Theater, the Dillon County, from Lakeview and Latta as well. And we want to try to keep the arts alive. Last year was a banner year. We had that Smithsonian exhibit and had so many good things. And then the pandemic kind of altered that. But hopefully this year we'll be able to see a return to where we can use the theater for what it's there for.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'm Johnny Lures with Chamber Moments. Hello, welcome to Chamber Moments. I'm Johnny Lures. Today I have as my guest Don Lures, a local meteorologist. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing well, thank you. It got cold.
Yes, certainly has. Season change has rolled across the PD, and we felt it right here in Dillon and Marion County. Temperature's not terribly cold compared to how they should be, kind of a typical winter pattern so far. But with that, we've had our share of cold weather, including some sub-freezing nights, of course, so it's been the usual routine for wintertime.
And it seems like it's been a lot of rain lately.
We remain well above normal in terms of soil moisture. Every time it rains, the soil still has no time to really dry up what it's already trying to work with. So every time it rains, we have extra long-lasting puddles. The rain ditches stay pretty full. We'll need a long dry spell to let that kind of begin to absorb into the soil system.
Thinking about, having a drying season and stuff like this, well, how about our farmers right now? What are they going through? And people getting ready for their backyard vegetable gardens and stuff, what should they be doing now? Is it time now to start, kind of prepping a little bit?
Well, it's too early to begin any actual work toward getting plants in the ground because we still have several more weeks of winter to go through as far as freezing weather. But what the farmers need, and ultimately the backyard gardeners too, is to get some drying of the soil, because if it was this wet during planting season, for example, farmers would be having a heck of a time just getting into the field to get the work done. So hopefully between now and when planting season begins in earnest, we'll have some drier weather to allow the soil some time to dry out. It's always a balancing act. You don't want to have too long a dry spell because then it can go in the other direction, but we do need to dry the soil out some to give the farmers a chance to get it and do their work once planting season arrives.
Okay. Now, I know we still have a little bit of winter left. What's the chance of possibly some little light flurries or anything like that?
Well, we've come pretty close a couple times so far this year for seeing a couple of flakes in the air. Haven't had any close calls for honest snow, but we have had some snow flurries as close by as Southern Pines, and even some reports in Chesterfield and northern Marlborough County of a few flakes of snow this past weekend. So we'll have that ongoing possibility if things time out just right with one of these little storm systems and the cold air coming in behind it to kind of click together to give us a few flakes of snow. Overall, it looks like we still have some time left to get a snow possibility. We'll just have to keep our fingers crossed if you're inclined to like snow, or watch the clock tick away if you don't like it.
Okay. Now, of course, we should look out for our animals and everything, right? It's still cold enough for them to have some effects from it, correct?
Absolutely. All the safety tips you usually have with cold weather and pets still have several more weeks to go. Here we are, crossing from January, beginning to go into February, and typically our last freeze is still going to be weeks down the road, so we still have plenty of winter time to go through.
Okay. Are you available to do any appearances or speaking or anything like this? I know that's kind of like been on hold a little bit, but if somebody had a question or wanted you to come and speak somewhere, are you available
Absolutely.
to do that?
I love to do public speaking on either hospice or weather, so if people want me to come and address a group, I'd be happy to. You're right, it has been curtailed some by the COVID pandemic we've been dealing with a lot of meetings being canceled and so forth. But once that swings back into gear, if people would like to have me come speak, I'd love to. My cell number is 843-506-2067, and I'd be happy to come.
Okay, thank you, Don.
You're welcome.
I'm Johnny Lewis with Chamber Moments.